Attention contractors, do not spend a single penny on marketing until you watch this video. In today's video, we're going to talk about the contractor math marketing playbook. We're going to talk about the metrics you need to understand and the numbers you need to do before you actually spend any money on marketing. The problem is that most contractors do not know their numbers. They don't know what their cost per lead is, the cost per booked appointment. They don't know what their cost per acquisition is, their margin rate is. They don't know what their call booking rate is, their appointment set rate. Those are all important numbers that they need to know before they spend any money on marketing. Because after doing this for 8.5 years, I've come to a realization is that marketing only exposes operational inefficiencies and operational problems. So you have to have your operation tight, your sales tight, your CRM tight before you do any type of marketing. And this video, you'll know the numbers and it'll help you understand how to run marketing campaigns with the numbers you understand. Marketing is just math, right? So there's a revenue formula and a math behind the equation. Revenue formula, it's leads times booking rate times close rate times average ticket will average revenue. Profit formula is revenue times margin minus marketing spend is going to equal your profit. If you don't know every variable in this equation, you're just gambling. And we're going to go through every single number here on the leads, the booking rate, the revenue, the margin, because there's specific formulas you need to follow for these numbers to make sense. And these numbers will make more sense once you go through these numbers. It will help you understand the math and the profit margins you need to be for you to be successful with any marketing campaigns. Before we start with the actual numbers, I want you to understand the financial foundation because this is really important. And this will teach you about your margin rate, your gross profit, and will teach you about how to really spend money on marketing. And it will teach you what the budget will be and really how to get the best results with your campaigns. Because if you don't have this foundation set, then anything you do is going to be just gambling. And there's so many contractors out there that are spending money on marketing and not understanding the full picture and the full value with their actual campaigns. So we're going to go through these foundations to understand how to really benefit for you guys. Before we do that, let's go over the average ticket. Just as an example, it could be, any trade. It could be roofing, plumbing, HVAC, whatever trade you're in, right? Whatever home service you're in, you have to first understand what the average ticket is. The average ticket obviously depends on the services you're providing. It depends on if it's a roof repair, roof replacement, if it's residential, if it's commercial, if it's HVAC, if it's water heater replacement, if it's simple plumbing repair. It just depends, right? Depends on what you want to do, the seasonal variance, if it's emergency versus moderate emergency. And it allows you to understand what the cost per lead is between each ticket. You have to segment these different tickets, and that will help you understand what your cost per acquisition is behind each ticket, right? Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to our channel, and hit the notification bell to stay updated on our weekly contractor marketing content. Let's go over the cost per acquisition formula. This is the most important part of the presentation. This is really the most important metric you'll need to really understand marketing and really get the best results with your campaigns. The average value times gross margin minus sales commission times close rate will give you a real maximum allowable CPA. For example, if you have an $8,000 job, your gross margin on that job is 40%. If you pay out sales commission, just give an example, just numbers that you can plug out, it's 10%. Your close rate, let's say 30%. Your step one, you figure out what your contribution rate is. So 40 minus 10 equals 30%. Step two, 8,000 times 30% will be $2,400. And then step three is $2,400 times a 30% close rate. Your max CPA will be $720. So what this means is if you're selling an average ticket of $8,000, your max CPA, if you have these numbers, is going to be $720. So you can spend $720 and still be profitable if you have an $8,000 ticket. And these numbers are variable, right? This is for your business. Just gives you an example of what it looks like for you guys. And obviously these numbers can be simple formula. And you can understand what your commission is going to be, your close rate is going to be, your gross margin is going to be. And what you see is that you can understand you can spend this amount of money per sale. So I know, like, if I'm spending $10,000 and I'm getting 7.2 customers on the sale, and I'm getting these amount of sales, that means I'm actually making good money. I can actually spend more and keep spending. That's how you figure out, that's how you scale marketing campaigns. You have to figure out what these numbers are going to be. And then you fix every single part of the funnel to really get a full understanding of how this makes sense for your business. Because obviously every business has different numbers. They have different gross margins. They have different closing rate percentages. You have the different commission. So these things that are variable, but the formula is the same. This will give you a proper guidance to really get the full picture and full value of the marketing campaigns and really understand the numbers before and actually get the success you need. We went over the actual CPA formula, which is the most important part of the video and the most important foundation for your success. Now, let's go over the top of the funnel lead capture metrics. Because the first thing you understand, we just talked about the back of the funnel. Now we're talking about the actual lead capture information. The lead metrics that actually matter. These are an example. Every business is going to be different. It's also going to vary depending on the trade. But on top of the funnel, basically you want to track all these different things. Total leads, cost per lead, marketing qualified lead rate, lead source accuracy, speed to lead, contact rate. Now, total leads, people define this in different manners. It could be contacts, it could be actual people that fill out a form, it could be an inbound phone call. Everyone has different formulas. The important thing is you have to understand is you have to have your CRM accurate with the actual right tracking and the right information. That would help you understand what your top of the funnel is to make adjustments and to get better results with the campaigns. The first thing we talk about, one of the most important things is speed to lead. Should have seen the importance of speed to lead. There's many studies that show that if you don't respond to a lead within 5 minutes, the chances of you converting that lead go to zero, basically. So you have to have a speed to lead information, speed to lead software and mechanism to really get the best results. Basically, the benchmark under 5 minutes is strong, under 2 minutes is elite. There are many tools that allow you to implement a speed to lead system for your business. I mean, we recommend Go High Level, which is the single best software out there in terms of speed to lead management. Obviously, there are other tools. If you're a Service Titan customer, they use different things as well that can actually get the speed to lead. But obviously, this is very important because what this does, especially if you're submitting forms, we're not talking about actual inbound phone calls, but if you're getting a lot of form submissions, if you're using lead aggregators, which every major home service brand uses, you're gonna get form submissions, estimates online. And what this does is that it allows you to really contact the lead right away. It actually increases the chances of you turning a lead into an appointment. And so that's the first step of the actual top of the funnel. The second number you have to understand is the contact rate. Contacted conversations divided by total leads. So if you generate 100 leads, which is another way to say if you generate 100 contacts, but only talk to 55, your marketing isn't broken, your follow-up is. That's a very common thing that I see. So if you have 100 contacts, they only talk to 55. Why did that happen? What was the reason why you only contacted 55? Is there something with speed to lead? CSR is not called fast enough. Did your follow-up not really get through? You have a lead nurturing campaign that really gets those leads to contact you. One of those things. If you have the right speed to lead, you should be contacting every single one. And your contact rate should be higher. Another thing to keep in mind is that obviously if you're doing different campaigns, if you're doing Google ad campaigns, if you implement a new website, typically you have sometimes spam come in and that kind of mess up these numbers. But with spam, there's different filtering systems you can use to really filter out the leads with the actual spam. Right, so lead capture information, lead capture that actually helps filter out the spam from the actual contact rate. Call center and booking metrics. One thing that you have to understand is that major home service brands, once they've kind of scaled their business, once they've spending up to 5% or 7% of their top line revenue on marketing, spending $10, $30, $50,000 a month or even more, typically they have either in-house call centers or they outsource the call centers. That's a very important part of actually turning a lead into a sale because it's really handling the lead. Inbound handling the lead is very important. So this is where a lot of contractors actually miss 20 to 40% of the revenue. You don't have to have a call center, but you can understand the numbers. You can have one person answering the phone, one CSR, but you should be able to track their numbers from the numbers I'm gonna go over right in a second. First thing is call answer rate. Answer calls divided by total inbound call. Obviously, you should answer 97% of the calls. Now, maybe that's not possible, obviously sometimes, especially if you have multiple people calling at the same time during business hours. If you're a smaller business and you just have one person answering the phone and two people call at the same time, obviously that can be an issue. But at the end of the day, you have to go for 97% or more, right? 97% or more because you have to answer the phone. And it's the first step actually turning a lead into appointment. 40% of inbound calls turn into a sale. So that's a very important part about actually fixing the lead. Every missed call is a revenue lead. So what is your actual call answer rate? Out of 100 calls, how many do you answer? 90, 95, 97? Very simple. With the right setup with the CRM, you can easily track that number. Callback rate. Return missed calls divided by missed calls. How many missed calls do you call back? It's pretty simple. If you have 100 calls, you answer 90 of them, but you miss 10 calls, do you call those people back? Again, callback rate should be 100%. You should call back every single opportunity that comes in. It should be either a form submission, a chat, if you have their phone number, it could be inbound phone call. Every single person, you're literally lighting money on fire. I'll say that again. If you're not calling back every single person, you are literally lighting money on fire. And I've seen so many contractors not do this simple step. So when they hire a company like us or hire a lead aggregator, they're getting calls. When you go back to the CRM, sometimes they don't even call them back. I've seen that firsthand. So that is a very important thing. When you fix these operational issues, you'll be much more successful with your marketing campaigns. Booking rate, another number you have to understand. What is your booking rate? What is your CSR booking rate? It's a simple formula to understand. Booked appointments divided by connected calls. And obviously there's the target in the industry, if you're doing it correct, is 70 to 80%. So out of the inbound phone calls, you should book 70 to 80% into actual appointments. That's the actual good average. A lot of people, if you actually track these numbers, it could be less than 40, 50%. That's a very common thing that I see. Out of 10 calls that are answered, that's a real phone call, how many actually turn into an appointment? If you're doing voice AI, and now there's advantages and disadvantages about doing that, which I'm not gonna go over in this video, but basically, you have to train the AI booking rate. You have to train the AI to get it to this point, but obviously it's the same number. Untrained, we'll see between 10 and 20%. If it's optimized, 40 to 50%. The advantage of having an AI answering service is obviously if you're after hours and people call you after hours, then you can have that answering the phone. What I've seen best is that having a combination of the human and plus AI can really benefit for actually turning the leads into an appointment. If AI is booking 15% and CSR is 75%, you know exactly where the gap is. So if your CSR is actually doing really well, but AI is not doing well, then you can actually still train the AI to get it to a higher level. Everything that you see, if you're missing this rate, this will cost you a lot of money. It could cost you up to $1 million a year if you're not fixing this number. Depending how much you're spending, it could cost you even more than that. So just keep that in mind. It's very important to understand what these numbers are. The cost per booked appointment. Most contractors I talk to, they know this, but they don't really dig into the actual numbers to figure out why that's happening. Obviously, it's actually more important to understand how many people you're actually sitting down at the kitchen table, how many people you're actually going to the apartment or actually doing a phone consultation, than actually an actual cost per lead. It's very simple. It's marketing spend by booked appointments. That's impacted by your CSR rate, how many people you talk to, how fast your speed to lead is. That will derive your cost per booked appointment. Because if you have a speed to lead system and you call right away and you have your CSRs trained, your cost per booked appointment might be a lot less than someone has the same lead but actually doesn't have a training process. So it might pay double for the booked appointment. So it's pretty simple. Marketing spend divided by booked appointments. It's a better metric than CPL. Obviously, the leads don't generate revenue. The first thing is actually doing a consultation, an estimate, or a booked appointment. They are actually the first step in actually generating a sale. Dispatch rate. Out of dispatch jobs divided by booked appointments, that's your dispatch rate. How many booked appointments actually turn into a dispatch job, right? The target is 85 to 95%. So a low dispatch rate equals poor qualification or cancellation process. A high dispatch rate, that means your CSRs are doing a good job, dispatching the right amount, and they're actually getting the qualified person to actually come out and give that presentation. So target is 85 to 95%. Very simple to understand. Dispatch rate, if you're using a CRM like ServiceTitan, you can find this number pretty simple. You just have to set up correctly. Again, it's a lot of work to set up these CRMs in a correct manner. My understanding with the ServiceTitan, it takes about 12 months of onboarding to set up correctly, but it's definitely worth it if you ever want to scale a contracting business. No-show rate. Again, very simple. Out of no-shows divided by booked appointments. So out of 10 appointments, how many actually showed up? Very simple. High no-show rate, actually fix your confirmation. What is your confirmation process when you book an appointment? So let's say, for example, somebody calls your business, somebody books an appointment, and then you book an appointment on the calendar. What happens before that time to the appointment? Let's say Tuesday, you actually booked the appointment on Thursday at 2 p.m. What are the things that you're doing in your business to actually remind the person of the appointment? Do you have appointment reminders set up? Do you have an email campaign? Do you have a nurture campaign? What are you doing to indoctrinate your customer of your process, your sales system? What are you doing to indoctrinate you about your business? What makes you different? Those 3 days, you can actually lose a sale because you don't have a strong indoctrination sequence. For our company, every time we book an appointment, we have a lead nurturing campaign that goes out to our clients to make sure they understand what the benefits are getting before they actually book a call. So those are things that you're doing on your end. These are things about you can implement, can be easily fixed with certain software that help you understand how to actually improve the no-show rate. And if you have a high no-show rate, it might be because the lead quality is not the highest, or you're not qualifying correctly on the actual CSR. So keep those in mind. But typically, if you're doing a good job with no-shows, your CSRs are trained, you have appointment reminders, you should get a pretty low no-show rate. Now let's go over the field and sales performance metrics. We're talking about the top of the funnel. We talked about cost per acquisition. Cost per acquisition is heavily influenced by your actual sales conversions, right? So it's very important to understand what your sales numbers are to get a full picture of your CPA, because if you have a really good training system for sales, if you really train your reps to understand your text to actually get the best results with your sales system, then obviously these numbers are going to be much more attractive to your marketing campaigns and getting a better return on your investment. Close rate. What is your close rate by technician, by rep, segmented by your technician, by the service type, by the lead source? It's pretty simple to understand. I mean, if you have the CRM set up in the correct manner, you can get the lead sources to match the leads. For example, if you have a dashboard and your dashboard shows you're getting leads from LSA, from your Google Maps listing, from your website, from a billboard, and you have all these numbers tracked, each lead should be categorized by the different category. Now you can have it segmented by the technician, by the service type, and the lead source. So you can understand which lead source is driving the most revenue, also which technician is driving the best ROI with the best sales conversions. And then also you can understand what that looks like, right? One thing I have to understand is that obviously LSA versus SEO is going to be a little bit different. The really advanced home service brands, they have training for the different lead aggregators, for the different marketing channels. So when they're answering phone calls from a website, from a Google ad, they're answering phone calls from the Home Advisor, they actually have people that are trained in a different manner to maximize that opportunity, right? So that's important to understand. So if you have this all set up correctly, you're gonna really get the best results with your actual campaigns. If you have your CRM and you segment it by technician, you can understand who your best closers are, and understand which service is actually easiest to sell. I mean, if you've been doing this for a while, you should already know this. Instead of going through gut, you can actually go through the actual numbers to make decisions. And the lead source. Which lead source provides the best ROI? You might be surprised. But again, it's not really about always the lead source, it's understanding your cost per acquisition, which is the most important thing for marketing. Now, let's go over the revenue per booked appointment. Revenue divided by completed appointments. If this is low, your tech's not presenting options properly. And this is very common. I see it all the time with people that get a booked appointment, it's good to go, but they have a low conversion rate. I mean, typically it's between 30 to 50% if you're doing a good job. Some home service brands are much higher than that, but it just depends. If you have a rep that is 20%, why is that person 20%? Have they been trained? Are they actually presenting all the options in the correct manner? Are they actually saying the right thing? There's actually AI tools that can allow you to understand what the person is saying in the home, to see where the things are doing, they're not doing correctly. So those things that really help you understand what's your revenue booked appointment. This is important because the more you train your reps, the more you train your techs, the more you train all these different things, the better results you'll get with the actual marketing. And this is a very important aspect to actually getting the best results with your campaigns. What is your gross profit per lead? Revenue times margin divided by total leads. This will give you your actual gross profit per lead. And your gross profit is extremely important to understand what your margin rate is, how much money you can spend on campaigns. Sometimes there's some services that you sell a lot of, you might not get the actual ROI behind it. And it could be from different services you provide. You have to understand that in your business. A lot of people do not understand that in their business. So that makes sense when you're doing that. This tells you how much each lead is truly worth depending on the channel, depending on the actual service you sell. Elite contractors, they really track this. They really understand what their numbers are. They understand what their best channel provides, what their best service sells for. For example, if you're in roofing, maybe selling, stone-coated steel provides the best ROI. Obviously, it's much more difficult to sell these types of roofs, but obviously it provides much better return on investment. You'll be surprised a lot of times, many of the services you sell give you the best profit, and many of the services you sell actually give you much lower return. So that's important to understand to give you a full picture of the marketing and the campaigns you'll do for your business. Let's talk about something that many people never get to, which is advanced marketing efficiency. This basically means how efficient your marketing is. I've talked to a lot of home service brands. Most people do not know these numbers, but the major home service brands that are spending a ton of money, spending upwards of $100,000 a month, they know these numbers. They know what their numbers are because they know how much money they're spending. Their business depends on the marketing so much. If they don't deliver on ROI, then they're gonna go out of business simply, right? So you have to understand what these numbers are. Marketing spend divided by closed sales. Again, I went over the allowable CPA with the gross margin. This is very important. Even have a basic cost per acquisition is at least something. Let's say, for example, if you spend $10,000 and you acquire 2 customers, your cost per acquisition is $5,000. Obviously, that's not the correct number. You have to account for commission, your margin for delivering. But if you're not even tracking that, that will give you at least a ballpark figure to really make some good decisions. Marketing efficiency ratio, MER, total revenue divided by total marketing spent. Example, if you're 500K in revenue and you spend 100K, you have a 5X MER. That's a marketing efficiency ratio. Again, very simple formula to understand. Basically percent of whole information. If you look at the holistic information you're doing, it kind of gives you an understanding of how efficient your marketing is. That's what it does. What you'll find over time, if you have a good brand, your marketing efficiency should improve over time, especially if you're really doing all the content information that I talked about. Blended CAC. This is something that obviously you probably heard many people talk about. Blended CAC is a true cost of your customer. Do you guys know how much each customer is worth to your business? You actually know that? I bet you most of you guys do not know that. In our business, right, I know what the lifetime value of each client is. It could be, anywhere between $40,000 and $60,000 or even more than that. So when you do that, your blended CAC is going to be how much you're spending, what your payroll is for sales, what your CSR payroll, and what software you're using. That's your blended CAC. This will give you your true cost per acquisition. And they underestimate CAC by most contractors I see, and most businesses I see, frankly, they underestimate CAC by 30 to 50%. So once you get the marketing spend, which is most people don't even get to that level, but you understand what you're paying out per commission, you're standing out what your CSRs are being paid, right, as payroll, and what your software expenses are, then you can understand what your blended CAC is. That's a more accurate picture. So you can see what you actually need to spend for actually making money. Payback period. This is something that you hear a lot in the online marketing world. You never hear it in the home service world. But very important to understand, how much does it take to get your money back for when you sign a customer? For example, how long does gross profit covers the marketing costs? So if you sell, let's say, a roof replacement job, if it's a retail job, you might install the roof next week. You have to still buy the material, and obviously your money won't be back until you actually complete the job, which might be in 7 to 14 days. That's your payback period. Now, if you're doing insurance jobs, your payback period might be 60 to 120 days, depending on how long that takes. So that's what it takes. So how long does it take to actually put the money in your bank before you actually get the sale? Because a lot of times I've seen a lot of contractors, they actually sell a lot of from the actual marketing, they sell a lot of jobs. Since it's such a cash heavy sale, sometimes you're actually getting paid a few months in, and actually it hurts businesses if you don't have the actual cash flow. So if you're selling a lot of jobs, it may actually hurt you in the beginning until you actually get that payback period. Capacity and operational metrics. Marketing without capacity equals chaos. I've seen a lot of contractors spend money on marketing. We work with them and they get a ton of leads, even a ton of sales. And then what happens is that they have to really slow down because they don't have the operational capacity to service the actual jobs they sold. So again, very important information to understand, because if you don't understand this, if you're actually scaling, then you're gonna be left behind. Technician utilization. Obviously different techs, you have different trucks, billable hours divided by paid hours. If utilization is low, then more marketing is in more efficiency. So it's very simple to understand. If you have low utilization, if your techs are always complete, if they're always full, if they're not really doing the jobs in an efficient manner, if your subs are not doing the jobs in an efficient manner, it takes a long time to service the jobs. You have to understand how often your jobs can do. So for example, if you're a roofing company, how long does it take to do a shingle job? You know how much long it takes? What happens if you're a small roofing company and you sell 50 roofs? Can you handle the actual capacity? Can your crews handle the actual capacity? You have extra crews in hand that you can actually work with that can actually service those jobs. That's very common thing to see, especially in a storm environment. I've seen it and also in the home service with the plumbers. If you have a lot of service jobs they need to service, you actually have the techs to service those jobs. Again, if you don't have that, it's going to be chaos. Your capacity utilization. Your book jobs divided by available slots. Scaling marketing without capacity breaks companies. I had Steven Van Horn on the podcast from a home service company a few weeks ago, and he talked about this very topic. How much jobs can your techs actually take? Do you know the actual numbers behind that? Do you know how many slots they can take? How many jobs they can service? Do you know that? If you don't know that, then if you're going to be spending a lot of money, you're going to be wasting that money because you're going to be able to service those jobs. So what is your utilization rate, your capacity utilization between those jobs? What is your revenue per employee? Which is a very simple number to understand. Revenue divided by total employees. If it's a low number, maybe it's an operation inefficiency. If it's a high number, then you're doing a good job and you can service a lot of jobs. Again, you have to understand what this is because this more gets into the CFO role. This is something that most people don't talk about. How many people can you actually service when you have a new job come in or have a new person come in? Sometimes when you hire new employees, it does not really fix the actual operational efficiency in your business. So these are all important numbers to understand to really get the marketing correct. Now, here's the complete funnel stack for your business. The full operational funnel. Obviously, there's some things that you can actually move from this, but obviously in your business, you can actually change it. But overall, these are the most important numbers you have to understand. First is your leads, the top of the funnel. How many contacts you're getting, your contact rate. How many of those leads you're contacting right away? Out of 100 leads, how many you're contacting? Your booking rate. Out of the actual people you talk to, how many actually turning into a book appointment? Your callback rate. How many you're actually calling back from the people you won't be answering the phone? It should be 100%. Your dispatch rate. How many of the people that you're actually talking to, you're dispatching with the actual jobs you completed? Your show rate. How many of your appointments show up? Close rate, what your closing percentage is. Your average ticket, what's your average ticket per job. What's your gross margin on each ticket? What's your cost per acquisition? We went over that in the beginning, most important thing. Your gross profit per lead, your lifetime value, your marketing efficiency ratio, and your payback period. Again, these are all important numbers. If you miss one, your math breaks. It's not simple to set up. It's a pain in the ass, but it's definitely worth it. And if you ever want to take marketing seriously, if you really want to grow your business, this is one of the first steps you have to do. You have to fix your operations before you spend any money on marketing. This is really completed with a full CRM. And a lot of people have CRMs, but they're not using it in the correct manner. If you have a CRM and you're using these numbers and you set it up correctly, then you will have much more confidence in how to be successful with your marketing campaigns. Small improvements equals massive growth. I'll give you an example. So if you make improvements on each step of the funnel, you're gonna be able to scale your business in a very fast manner. So for example, if you have 100 leads and you book 50% of them and you close 30%, that means you have 15 jobs. Now, if you improve your close rate by 40%, that equals 20 more jobs. And that's a 33% increase in revenue without increasing marketing spend. Now, if you improve your booking rate to 70%, that's actually 20 more jobs. Again, it's fixing every part of the funnel, getting a full picture understanding. Most contractors I talk to don't even have an understanding of what this looks like. But if you're actually fixing every single part of the funnel one by one, then you'll be more successful with your campaigns. Final truth, marketing is not the first problem you fix. A lot of people, they think they have a lead problem. They don't have a lead problem. They have a visibility problem. If you don't know these numbers, you're never gonna be successful with any marketing campaigns. I've seen so many contractors keep hiring marketing agencies, keep hiring more companies, and they hire 3 or 4 or 5, 6 or 7 at a time, but they don't fix the operational issues. Those are the issues that actually make you successful with any marketing company you hire. Unless you fix these issues, it doesn't matter who you hire. It could be the best marketer in the world. You will never be successful. So you have to do this in your business. You have to know what your booking rate is, your close rate, your margin rate, your allowable cost per lead, what your capacity constraints are. Once you fix these issues, this will help you scale your business 5, 10, 20, $30 million. The companies that know these, the companies that are scaling their companies, they know these numbers before they do any marketing. It's not just about brute force and spending more money on marketing. It's actually fixing the operational issues to get the full picture and the full value of any marketing campaigns you guys are doing. The growth system, it's marketing plus operation plus financial clarity equals scalable profit. That's what it makes sense. Once you actually fix your operations, then you can actually spend more money on marketing. That's why these companies that are coming in that have private equity back, they actually have a really tight operational system. That's why it allows them to spend 7 to 10% or even 15% of top line revenue on marketing because they have fixed all these operational issues. So it allows them to spend more money on marketing in an efficient manner, in a profitable manner. Again, that's how you make sense. That's how you grow a business. So that's the growth system. Marketing plus operations plus financial clarity equals scalable profit. That's the Contractor growth operating system. Before you hire any marketing campaigns, before you hire any marketing agencies, fix your operational issues, know what your numbers are, and you'll be much more successful with any marketing agency that you hire.